Hi, Ida. Hi, Sam, Dory, Ryan, everyone. Good to have. Yes, I see that. I see that. 1, 2, 3, 5. You'll have to share. I'm running out of copies here. I didn't expect so many people here. I just made 10 copies. Okay, here you can share with someone. I need this one, unfortunately. Hmm. So our cantorial soloist, who is always with us every Friday, she is stuck in the storm that is coming our way, and they will not make it here. She sends her regrets. We were planning actually a Debbie Friedman service. We're going to use a lot of Debbie Friedman songs tonight. I will continue to do that, but you'll just have to bear with me. So that's that. What time is it? I think I saw the Nate and Iris's car pull up, but I'm not sure. I thought I did. It was a white Lexus. Oh no, I think they have a black one, don't they? Black one.
Or gray. He has a black car, but it's not an Lexus. And she has a Lexus, but it's kind of gray.
Oh, okay, maybe I didn't. Yeah. Well, someone's coming, and then we'll get started. Unfortunately, I can't see whether there are people zooming in. He's able to do this remotely, and so we will have people joining us virtually on this. What's that? Oh yeah, please, thank you. Oh, here they are.
There you are.
Good. Hi, you made it in the rain. Yeah, the storm looks, well, maybe by the time we're done, yeah, I know, I was driving in that, but it didn't rain. It didn't, yeah, I didn't catch that. Give you that, those are some greetings.
All of a sudden.
That's okay. Take your time. That's all right. We're pretty informal. Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful gathering for this 4th of July weekend. Can you all hear me all right? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. So we're going to start with the candle lighting, and I'll ask, what about the small family? Would you like to come and light the Shabbat candles on the whole family doesn't have to come up, just 1 or 2 people, whoever would like to. Page 120. Amen. Thank you. We're going to continue now with Yedid Nefesh on page 128. We had a request for the guitar anyway, so. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha, Mishoch avdecha la 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 el ritzonecha. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha, Mishoch avdecha la 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 el ritzonecha. Yarut avdecha kimayal, yishtachavel la 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 emul hadarecha. Yarut avdecha kimayal, yishtachavel la 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 emul hadarecha. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, Mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha, Mishoch avdecha la 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 el ritzonecha. You'll notice I've made some selected readings. The people virtually also have this. It was made into a PowerPoint by Andy, so they'll be able to follow along as well. I thought that in light of July 4th, I'm one to look at original documents. I like to look at the original because we gain so much insight. And I really think that we are living in a blessed country. We enjoy so many wonderful things about being here in this country as Jews when we look at the history of the Jewish people as a whole. This is a wonderful country. I thought that it might be nice to kind of go back and look at some important addresses or some important documents that have shaped the way that we think about the United States, about the way we think about our country. And these are good reminders, no matter where you are on whatever political spectrum. I want to be clear, this is not a political thing at all, but rather a chance for us to get to see in our history that some of the things that we're struggling and wrestling with today were the very same things that our forefathers and the founders of our country and those that followed in leadership were wrestling and struggling with as well. The first reading is from the first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. Do I have any volunteers first before I call? Hannah, thank you. Go ahead, please. Would you like to read number 1?
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare for the separation?
The causes of the separation are listed in the Declaration of Independence. I haven't included that because it would take a little longer. But as you can see, that there is a belief that the independence and the foundations of our country rest as God-given rights, and they thought to include the name of God in their Declaration of Independence, that it's in the natural order of things and of nature's God that they should be required not only to declare their independence, but the reasons why they are making such a declaration. And we'll continue with the second reading a little bit later on. Let us turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish. Again, this is a Debbie Friedman Shabbat. She wrote a Chatzi Kaddish that is somewhat controversial in its time. That's on page 144, followed by the Baruch Hu on page 146. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabba B'yolama Tivrach Kirutei V'yamlich Malchutei Mechayechonu v'yomechon Uvechaye d'chol beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman kari Ve'imru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam u'l'olmei Olamaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yithar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shemei dekudesha b'richu shemei dekudesha b'richu Le'elamin kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'olama ve'imru amen da'amiran bi'olama ve'imru amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. La 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach 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 Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. May be seated. And let us join together on page 150 in the English in the middle of the page, Everlasting Love. Together. Everlasting love you offered people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthen our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot ukimu mishpatim otanu limareta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nege yomam balayla yomam balayla v'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the Shema, page 152 and 153, the Shema and the Baruch Shem Kavod, after we have professed our deepest appreciation for God's expression of love through giving us the Torah and the mitzvot and the commandments. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad. Again. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Leolam Vahem. You may be seated. We continue now with the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. And can I get a volunteer now to read the second reading, paragraph 2 of the Declaration of Independence? Okay. Patricia?
Declaration of Independence, 0704, 1776 days. So we would say, how do you say that one?
Oh, first half of the second.
1776.
Yeah.
Okay, July 4, 1776. First half of second paragraph. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governor. That whenever any form of destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established shall not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, what evil are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are.
And once again, notice in this paragraph the reference to the Creator, that we have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is not unlike what we see in the Torah in terms of freedom, in terms of removal from slavery, and that it's repeated throughout the Torah, that God redeemed the children of Israel. Now, the divergence, of course, is that we have laws and we have commandments that we follow that are expressed in this divine document, whereas what we have in our country, and rightfully so, are laws that are created by human beings under, as it were, the right established by the Creator, that laws are designed to ensure our life, to ensure our liberty, and to ensure our pursuit of happiness. And one of the wonderful things about happiness in our tradition, of course, is the Shabbat, which is what we're all gathered here, and that we have the freedom to do that we have the right, not just from this great country, but the right from God to keep the Sabbath, to have a day of rest, to have a day of holiness. In our tradition, that's one of the most important aspects of happiness, is the keeping of the Shabbat, of gathering here in prayer and reflecting on the holiness of this sacred day of rest. The Vishamru on page 162. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael HaShabbat HaShabbat La'asot HaShabbat L'dorotam Berit olam Vishamru v'nei Yisrael HaShabbat La'asot HaShabbat L'dorotam Berit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Ki sheshet yamim Asaronai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafar Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Vishamru v'nei Yisrael HaShabbat La'asot HaShabbat L'dorotam Berit olam Please rise now for the tefillah, beginning on page 164. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממיד ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. You may be seated. Let us turn now for reading. It is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, and there's a special insert, and why don't we join in prayer? Middle of page 174. Where it says, near the bottom, our God and God of our fathers and mothers, on this first day of the new month of Tammuz, be mindful of us and all your people Israel, for good, for love, for compassion, life and peace. Remember us for well-being. Visit us with blessing. Amen. Help us to a fuller life. And let us now continue in silent meditation. Who would now, as part of our service, like to read reading number 3? Nate, would you like to read paragraph 3?
Again, from the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. By the way, 1776 is the last digit of Jack Freelander's phone number.
What? I'm sorry?
It's the last digits of Jack Freelander's phone number.
Oh, okay. That's an appropriate footnote to history.
Uses and usurpations, pursuing invariable the same object, useless designed to reduce them into absolute despotism. It is their right, their duty to provide regards these colonies, such now necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. This present kingdom, all having a direct object of establishment of absolute This declaration firmly binds the protection of divine providence and mutually pledge each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
And once again, note the reference, the writers of the Declaration of Independence seeking the protection of the divine providence. We continue to have these references of something greater than ourselves in our relationship to our mission about what our country was founded on. And they pledge to each other their lives, their fortunes, and probably most important to them, their honor. Their honor to each of them was obviously important enough to include as one of the sacred obligations to protect with regards to the future of the new country. So almost 100 years later, there was an address made by then President Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg that has lived on in our country's hearts. And who would like to read the Gettysburg Address? By the way, just as a footnote in history, there was another speaker who spoke for about 2.5 hours at Gettysburg. And then Lincoln came up and gave, I think there's 121 words, I think. It took a very short, well, you'll see it takes a very short time, but yet his words have lived on to this very day. Any volunteers from the small family? Oh, we got the Iris. Why don't you, either one? Howard, would you like to take number 4?
Gettysburg Address, 47 years ago. Nation conceived in liberty and dedicated. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated to the common good. We are met on the great battlefield of that war. We have come to declare and dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here give their lives and the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
Would somebody else like to conclude the Gettysburg Address, or? Okay, please, go ahead, Howard.
But in the larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. Brave men living and dead who struggle here have consecrated it, far above our poor-powerful average of time. The world will little note or long remember what we say here. We can never forget what we did here. It is for us to live in, rather to be dedicated from here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored measures of devotion, that we are here highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1864.
And let us conclude our tefillah with the Oseh Shalom, because prayer for peace is the greatest gift of all. Oseh Shalom bimromav, page 180. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru ve'imru Oseh shalom Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. And we have one last reading from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Who hasn't read, who would like to read the fifth reading?
Truths to be self-evident. They are created equal. They are endowed by God with certain inalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is a dream. It's a great dream. First thing we notice in this dream is an amazing universalism. It doesn't say some men, it says all men. It doesn't say all white men, it says all men, which includes black men. It does not say all Gentiles, it says all men, which includes Jews. It doesn't say all Protestants, it says all men, which includes Catholics. It doesn't even say all theists and believers, it says all men, which includes humanists and agnostics. Never before in the history of the world has a socio-political document expressed in such profound, eloquent, and unequivocal language, dignity, and words of human personality. The American dream reminds us, we should think about in the new on this Independence Day, that every man is an heir of the legacy of the
We're going to continue now. I have a sermon prepared, but that relates to these readings. But I thought it might be interesting for us to share some reflections about our country, these readings, your reactions to them on this 4th of July weekend. I found these readings to be just renewing in spirit. You know, you sort of don't remember them. You know, you remember reading them in grammar school, and maybe you've read them as part of a paper that you wrote in college or in high school. But, you know, over time, you don't really read it in depth out loud. So if anyone would like to share thoughts that they have about these readings, what stands out, you could teach me. Say it that way.
I see that basically everything that we have read, God is always there. The Creator, you know, in every single
Yeah. Yeah, and it implies also that everyone, regardless of the belief in the Creator, has those rights. That to me is remarkable, that those rights don't go away if you're an agnostic, if you're someone who doesn't believe in theism and God at all, that this country is broad enough in its approach that you don't have to read it so exclusively. You can read it in a very, very broad manner, which is what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King read this particular document in that way. you could construe it to say all men, but not women. And it took a long time to understand that the word men was going to, in this context, include all people, include women, include everyone. Yeah.
And each of us,
Isn't it fascinating that the people who wrote these documents were the elite of the country, right?
Yep.
Mostly Protestant.
Yep.
Okay? But all of this for everybody, but yet they didn't practice what they wrote.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it dawned on them, whether they felt that conflict. You'd think that they would. I'm not a historian, so I don't know how they personally felt. You're referring to many of them were slave owners, right? And which sort of contradicts what they were writing. I don't know the history of how they felt, or if they struggled at all with that problem that they themselves were not practicing what they preached in terms of slave ownership.
It was part of their society.
Yep.
Well, to do at that time, everybody owned slaves. Everybody owned land.
Yep.
And people were allowed to come and work for the man.
Yep.
But isn't it interesting that it's the same concept where he built these magnificent words?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the lessons that I take from that, and I agree with you completely, what I take from that is that we all in our society have blind spots. We, in the context in which we live, we espouse certain principles, but we don't engage in the kind of introspection and self-reflection that would lead. I'm not talking about any one individual. I'm talking about, as a country, we don't engage in that deep reflection that says, am I living the word? That's where I think religion really helps. That's where I think churches and synagogues can really be helpful in encouraging the tension between how we live and the morals and values, the ethics that we preach. And I think in every I will bet you 100 years from now, 50 years from now, they're going to look at us and say, how could you miss that? How could you not be aware that what you were saying or what you were saying contradicted the very thing, the way that you were living? You weren't practicing what you preached. And that's why I think religion can be very, very helpful. I talk about that in Korach. That was Korach's problem. He didn't engage in any kind of, in the text, he doesn't engage in any kind of self-reflection. He doesn't engage in, I have a personal interest here. What's motivating me to engage in this rebellion? And he doesn't engage in that. And then he doesn't step into the other problem that he has, is that he doesn't step into the shoes of the other. He doesn't see it from Moses' perspective. He doesn't see it from Moses' leadership. Does he have a just cause? Yeah, in fact, he does on the surface. You read the text and, it looks like nepotism. Moses is the leader, he talks to God, and then he appoints Aaron to be the high priest. All the important offices are going to Moses' family. That's how it looks. And Korach, to me, one of the things I've learned from Korach is that he doesn't engage in that. We have to discern that. We have to understand that, because the text is silent on that. And I think you bring up a great point, is that they either were blind or they just ignored it and they just acted the way they did. I agree with you. And I think it's a lesson for us, always. Yeah. Yes, Hannah.
One thing that I noticed, Rabbi, is if you're drawing a through line, going from the Declaration to the Gettysburg Address, to Martin Luther King's words, it's one of those things where it was very easy to say we're all equal ones. That didn't make it necessarily true. true for everyone. And it was one of those things where, obviously, even after the Declaration, that didn't make the country free at all. That didn't make anyone free yet. And things went into it. With the Gettysburg Address, you had people who were fighting for a sense like equality in the country and like a lot of things, and like what we're going into it. And Lincoln points that out that all of the dead and stuff, that was like the dedication, the fighting and stuff. And then even Martin Luther King, at the point he's saying this, at the point where Lincoln says this, all men are created, equal of the people. That still wasn't true. It was still a dream. By the time Martin Luther King said it, it was still a dream. And it's still, in some ways, in a lot of ways, it is today. But it is one of those things where there's a lot of, I would say, political apathy, especially among like younger people in the country and stuff like that, that like, what side do we sing, or what does it matter? What does it matter if I vote? What does it matter if I can engage? All this kind of stuff. But throughout history, since the founding and stuff,
Yeah.
one thing that I see is that everyone can acknowledge that it's not true, but it should be, and it's an ideal that's worth fighting for, that it's something that's important enough to dedicate your life to. I mean, Martin Luther King, like Jr., didn't live in a cushy position and stuff like that. He had skin in the game, to say the least. Like the man went through everything. Ultimately, you could say he lost his life for his cause too. You could draw a line there quite easily.
In many ways, yeah.
And it's one of those things where everyone believed that it was worth fighting for and it was worth engaging more. That it continued to expand and engage more, and I think it's something that it is worth fighting. I know it's worth fighting for, but it takes work.
Yeah, no, I think that in every generation there is that struggle that you refer to, whether it's Martin Luther King's time or in our time, there is that struggle. What I found kind of interesting, and sometimes I think crazy thoughts, but here the Declaration of Independence, they asserted their right to free themselves from British rule. And wasn't the Civil War in part about that from either perspective? Believe me, I'm not in favor of slavery, and there's a lot of history about that. They didn't really fight the Civil War because of slavery. They fought the Civil War to hold the Union together. So there's a lot of debate about the motivations for the fighting of the Civil War. But isn't it kind of ironic, that the Confederacy was formed because they thought that the government was oppressive in the kind of language that we find in the Declaration of Independence. And I think that's a great lesson for our country today, that from the religious standpoint, I'm not a believer in laws that reflect a certain religious perspective. I am not in favor of the 10 Commandments being in the classroom. I'm just not. What I am in favor of is I'm in favor of the children who are in the classroom going to their respective churches, going to their respective temples or their mosques, and learning values that are reflective of the values that they're trying to inculcate, that they want us as a public to do. I'm very much in favor of that, because the 10 Commandments have God language in them. And once you start on that road, that puts some groups in a kind of precarious situation. We can espouse values that are reflective. And as literature, if you want to have classes later on as children mature. But I do think that the 10 Commandments, Torah, the best place to learn about those things, right here. Just there's the New Testament. The best place to learn about the New Testament is not necessarily in a public school, but in respective churches. And I think that there's enough for us on this declaration, on this Independence Day, to think through that in many respects, just as Hannah pointed out, just as Nate pointed out, that every generation in protecting the ideals given to us by God of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is an ongoing duty for us to protect, to nurture, and to strive towards. We're not going to be perfect, and I think Nate, you really were on point that that they didn't practice what they preached, and either they were just blind to it. So we have to learn from that and be introspective, and we have to be able to put ourselves, as Korach could not, in the shoes of the other and have an understanding of those who we might disagree with, but we share the same underlying values and principles. Thank.
And be very important to teach the laws of Christianity. It's for the newspaper world.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem.
Right. It's too slippery a slope. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let us continue in our service. Let's turn to the Misha Berach prayer. Thank you all for that lovely sermon. Page 371, the Misha Berach prayer. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. We pray for the healing of Dr. John Johnson, Sheila Ross, Tammy Jackson, Harold Fink, Sandra Kelly, Mark Hieronymus, Rafi Breen, Drew Pasaglia, Aidan Edmondson, Tyler Mazie, Les Beyer, David Cherniak, and Ann Miller. Is there anyone in need of healing that we haven't mentioned? Alan Goldberg, yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Misha Berach imotenu mekor habaracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Please rise for the Aleinu, page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'ateit gedula liotzer b'reishit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samonu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu gahem, v'goro aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad. You may be seated. This week we observe the yahrzeits of Raymond Hirsch, Cassius Fishbein, Max Keller, Albert Klein, and Murray Muchnick. Is there anyone observing a yahrzeit or saying Kaddish for someone who they wish to remember at this time? The Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah bi'alma divrach chirutei v'yamnich malchutei mechayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ule'olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who established peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. Please remain standing for the Kiddush. Anne, would you lead us again in that? Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei v'ri ha'gafem.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho, b'ahava uvratzon, inkilanu, zikvaron l'maaseh, v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah, lemikra kodesh, zeker l'tzion, Mitzrayim, kivanu v'harta, ve'otanu kidasha, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat
kodecha
v'yahava Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
You may be seated, of course.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Thank you. Just a few announcements. This Wednesday, we will have Lunch and Learn. It's a wonderful group that gathers every Wednesday, and we discuss topics of concern and of interest, and we hope that you can join us for that. That's at noontime here at the temple, and then at 5 o'clock at the same time, but virtually, is our Torah study. And then, of course, next Friday, services. Any other announcements? No? Okay.
Yeah, next Saturday is.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, next Saturday, next Shabbat morning is our breakfast and services beginning at 9:30. It's a wonderful time to come to the temple on Shabbat morning. We have breakfast that's prepared by Nate and those who he enlists. We've had everything from pancakes to scrambled eggs to bagels and lox, and it's just wonderful for everyone to get together. And then we have an hour-long service. So certainly, if you're not, we'd love to have you join us next Shabbat morning. Okay. Any other announcements? No? Okay. We're going to conclude our service with America the Beautiful, page 681. I don't think we have a kiddush, unfortunately. This office was closed today. We could get some wine out if you all wanted, but we don't. We have the challah. Okay. We'll just do the first verse, okay? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Let's go to the last verse. Oh, beautiful for Patriot Dream. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Shabbat Shalom.